what is the importance of empowering women beyond your occupation? You guys are good stewards in the community, right? When we talk about unsung heroes, we talk about preserving life. And so it's an honor to be before you, not just as a woman of color, because in this very historic place, the nation's capital, nation's seat of governance, there is history here. So your ability to succeed is very important, because we have many citizens of the district that are generationally in cycles of living that are not necessarily the standards that you and I might subscribe to. And the reality of being women and being leaders and being empowered to lead, working in a profession running towards the fire as opposed to away from the fire. I just want you guys to know how much of an honor it is to stand before you, knowing all of my goals and visions, looking ahead, but to know that you exist, to know that you're showing up ready to be tomorrow's leaders. And that is so important for the folks that are coming behind you. So regardless of what your generational understandings are, regardless of who came before you, you're here today. And I'm here to welcome you into your leadership roles, because tomorrow belongs to you all. So thank you for your commitment. You are a part of an organization that touts such words or are rooted in history of excellence, pride, honor, tradition, and most especially community. So I want to take a moment and ask you, if you will, our unsung heroes, give yourselves a round of applause. Oftentimes you have folks come before you and they share all of this wonderful I, and I'm going to promise to try not to do that to you this morning. I want this to be a connection, because as you heard me say, unsung heroes is very real in a community, in a setting where the guns go off as they do. I mean, can we be real this morning? Can we have a conversation? Because the reality of understanding the enormity of your commitment would be the reality of understanding the commitment of the community around you for which you are serving and for which you will be serving. The reality of having 1 in 5 African American youth not only not attending school, but also not working. The reality of public safety matters lurking at every corner as you show up running towards the fire. The reality of knowing that your every move and decision, being part of such a prestigious organization, will depend on your ability to win. What does that mean to win? Are you a winner out there? Because see, I'm a winner. As in my world, win means wellness is necessary. So today, my dear leaders, today, my dear fellow sisters and unsung hero, I want you to understand that in order for your superpower to be ignited and to help the community around us and the city as a whole, we've got to make sure that you're well. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. All right. Again, Dr. Rhonda Hamilton, it is truly my pleasure. I am a native of Ward 8 Southeast DC. Anybody that knows DC, you know I just said a mouthful, right? Boy, talk about being women and empowerment and the need and necessity for it. We have a community of little girls just a stone's throw away from here that need to know you exist. See, it's not easy coming up in the public eye and making such a public decision to come and do good. See, you already know when you signed up for the job that you got to run towards the fire. So there are expectations of you all. And when you leave the job, you are entitled to have your own personal identity restored. Correct? But there's something very heavy, a weight very heavy, when you start talking about a hero, when you start talking about igniting superpowers, because that's exactly what you represent when you go out into the community. And again, I'll make the point that to win, we've got to make sure you're focusing on your wellness. Now, you heard that I am the mental health advocate. I've done quite a few things thus far in my living and look forward to do quite a few more. In 2022, after going in and out of communities of underserved families, working class families, marginalized families across the district, one thing became fundamentally clear to me. We have an economic divide. What does that mean? One half of our city is thriving and the other half is surviving. So I'm sure, I can only imagine when Ms. Cooper mentioned that this young lady's coming, who's ran for mayor, we start thinking politics. And if your household was anything like my household, we didn't do politics. But the reality of accepting such enormity of saving lives, preserving lives in the community around you, the politics are at play. So if you're going to be an effective leader, you've got to understand the community that you are called to serve in. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right, so today we're going to talk. We're going to talk. We have opportunity to get to know one another. We have opportunity to understand the broader sense of two words that are so crippling, not just here in the city, across the nation and globally: mental health. There is such a stigma, those two words, mental health. And especially in the world in which you work, because you wouldn't dare want anyone to think you're not fit to work. You've got to take care of your families. This is your career. It's so important. And so what I realized going into communities, low-income communities such as Ward Southeast DC, I'm in the district right now, so you'll feel a few statistical data, just so you, if you're not from the district, you can understand the enormity of your service. 14% of DC's population, and we have 700,000 roughly citizens, 14% are living below the poverty line. That number represents about 98,000, under 100,000 families. So when you show up to do your work and the community around you is imbalanced, there's a wellness concern. Our young people are not working. The guns are going on. And you still have signed up to run towards the problem as opposed to running away from it. In an institution steeped in so much pride and honor and history, it is important that you all, as women, as tomorrow's leaders, win. And so as the mental health advocate, the daughter of a proud military soldier, the daughter of what we call schizophrenia. What in the world is schizophrenia, right? This sounds like a big fancy word. But the reality is that I learned early on that in order for my superpower to work, to be effective, I needed to understand who I was, right? And so we're in a world, in a nation. Welcome, everyone. Nice to greet you all. Looking forward to getting to know you this morning. In my world, it was very taboo to talk about mental health. Well, thank goodness we're advanced. We're down the road and we've got a pandemic somewhat behind us. And so we've been further educated about the importance, but most importantly, I would like to believe about the updated understanding of what mental health is. Because see, yesterday's definition, a white robe and you laid on a couch and something was wrong. And if you were so far advanced, you were institutionalized. Who wants to wear the label or the stigma of that as if that is all that you would be? So today, my message to you is that in order to be and continue on your journey as an unsung hero, as tomorrow's leaders, it is important that you win. But always remember that to win, you must know that wellness is necessary. Did you know that in addition to joining a very richly steeped institution, that you also joined a profession that is one of the heaviest professions of stress, anxiety, depression. And so one of the things that I would hope you would want to adopt right out the gate is how you will protect your superpower. Because if you are not well, then you are not winning. And if you are not winning, then our community as a whole is weakened. Because we look to you when trouble breaks out. You do realize you're in the disaster profession, correct? You do realize that as women, community members look up to you. This institution has been very, very much rooted in educating the community. Very much rooted in making sure that you provide the type of health care intervention that will save a life. How effective is your superpower and your ability to save a life if your life is in the balance and jeopardy? And see, it is important, and this is why I do the work that I do as a mental health advocate. It is important that we have effective conversations and communication. We can't allow ourselves to be fearful of having conversations because of a label attachment. Because what we're going to find beyond our skin colors, beyond our upbringings, the reality is at the end of the day, but under our skin, we're all human. And we've got to have these conversations in order that we are better people, in order that we show up in better spaces and places, because you guys have such a responsibility, and you have yet to even know what that looks like. But as tomorrow's leaders, it is important that your superpower is well in order that you're going to win, because you are going to win, correct? Yes. All right, so great. So I want to talk to you about a few statistics, and I want you to understand that in addition to being a military daughter, a proud military daughter, I am also, as you heard me mention, the daughter of schizophrenia. And as I talk to you in this room, tomorrow's leaders, I want you to know that the most courageous woman in my life is my mother. And long before I understood what schizophrenia was, I watched her struggle. Not just struggle with what her own personal realities were, but what society thought of her, and how that impacted her daily living. And how many times she must have needed someone such as yourselves to show up to rescue her. Because you're usually standing in the gap waiting for the auxiliary services to show up. Again, you're first in. You're showing up to preserve life. It is only important that you are first making sure to preserve your own. Is that fair? I want you to know that in DC right now there is an 81 times wealth gap. In order to properly serve the community, you got to properly understand the community. Folks that are looking for work, folks that are unhealthy, folks that are making decisions that are not necessarily responsible, will most likely end up on your radar because the 911 call goes in. So today I wanted to talk to you about making sure that your superpower, because that's what you guys are, you're heroes. Who signs up for a job where you run towards the problem as opposed to running away? Obviously, you're taught to be safe and practice safety. But the reality is that oftentimes, because you're trained so well, because you're steeped in so much tradition, you're putting other people's well-being before your own. Does that sound familiar? Well, I want you to know that there were words like gentrification, failed public safety, community divide. Out there as a mental health advocate, those words activated my superpower. So you wonder why I would consider running for office. Because what I realized is that there was a conversation we were not having as a city and across the nation. We were not winning because of the stigmas of mental health. And the reality is, if you come out of a relationship the wrong way, I mean, can I get some realness in a room full of women? You come out of a relationship the wrong way and you feeling a little something. And there's some wellness needed. If you come from a dysfunctional family, I mean, let's face it, some of us didn't get to choose, we're here. See, we've got to be in touch with who we are if we're going to keep our superpowers healthy enough that we go out and save the community. Amen? Amen. All right, so I want you to know that my responsibility is to make sure that we're having effective conversations about what today's mental health looks like. And understanding that you are defined by so much more. But just as you guys are expected to adhere and uphold, uplift the values of this very rich institution that you're a part of, you will also, as you step into our communities, be our heroes. Our heroes. Because many families are depending on you all to show up well. You're preserving life. And that is nothing to take lightly. And so what I realize as women, we're generally the nurturers of the community, in our households, in our family. We're generally juggling more than we'd like to be juggling. But I want you to know that for your superpower to be effective and for you to be successful as tomorrow's leaders, you've got to be committed to them, which means you've got to understand your own personal health. You've got to understand that there are conversations you're going to need to have with yourself and other professionals to make certain that when that stress level is so high that you're not able to function, you must realize that you're in a profession where your superpower is needed. And so if you're not able to function, that impacts the community, no doubt. And so it's my job to make sure we're having responsible conversations, but more importantly, it's my job to make sure that you win. In order to do that, I've got to help you to prepare for the community that you serve, and thereby that word politics. We've got to make certain that families and workers across the district feel protected. We've got to make certain that the dangers are minimized. We've got to make certain that there's opportunity and access so that folks have the freedom to win. See, it's very off-putting, very embarrassing to have to admit you have a problem. And as women, we tend to have to work that much harder to prove ourselves. But I want you to know that your foundations must be solid. They must be rooted in wellness if you're going to win and help the community around you. Is that fair? All right, so I want to share some things with you. I want you to understand that one of DC's most valuable assets, in my opinion, are its workers. And another valuable asset is its citizens. I want you to know that I am unapologetically American and a lover of all people. But what I could not ignore was the predominance of families that were struggling. The predominance of families that were living in unhealthy states. The predominance of families that were depending on city services. Folks that look just like you, and you show up to do what you were trained to do, not realizing the domino effect of all of the unhealthy living that you're stepping into. And as you heard me say, the most important thing when showing up is making sure that you are solid. But oftentimes, you got to put others' well-being before your own. So this morning, I come before you to greet you, our unsung heroes. I want you to know that just like you, my superpower has been ignited. I show up in the world to do good. But in order to be successful at that, in order to win, I must understand the importance of wellness. And as the daughter of schizophrenia, the daughter of one of the most bravest women I know, why do I say that? Because understanding that you have a challenge, understanding that there's something flawed within yourself, and still waking up every day, facing the day, to do good, to help others, to put a smile on your face. Sometimes it can be a challenge as women, no doubt. Sometimes we just don't feel like it. But here you are, entrenched in such a historic organization, carrying its traditions forward, representing its values in tomorrow's world. It is important that you know you matter. Your health matters. Your wellness matters. The reality, let me give you some statistics here. Let me see if I can read my own writing. I have to make notes to make sure I get it all in. 2024, as recent as 2024, research has shown that the top 10 careers that are plagued with heavy stress levels, depression, concerns for mental wellness. Number 1, healthcare professionals. Number 2, social workers. Number 3, creative professionals. 4, legal professionals. 5, entrepreneurs and business owners. 6, teachers. 7, first responders and emergency personnel. 8, financial professionals. 9, admin support. 10, mental health professionals. So beyond the obvious, you realize you made an honorable mention on the list, no doubt, correct? I made an honorable mention on the list twice. I'm a small business owner, I'm an insurance broker, but I'm also a mental health professional. So what does that say to us? That we're more alike, more aligned than different. So when we start running from mental health as if it's just this isolated thing, the reality is that there are many professions and many folks who are impacted by it. And just as you're trained to have a plan and have a strategy when you're running towards that fire or running to help a member of the community, you got to have a plan and a strategy for your living. Because you're a part of the norm who are going to experience stress, high levels of mental health exposure, and at times diminishment. But the key is to understand that you're not alone. You're not by yourself. But am I entitled, required to be responsible? Absolutely, if I want my superpower persona to activate in a way that I'm effective. So they go together. You're not defined by what you may be feeling or going through, but you are expected to be responsible enough to recognize that as this superpower being in the community, in my agency, I have a fundamental responsibility to myself. That means that wellness, I have to check in with me. So I'm going to throw a few words out there, and I want you to know if any of it sticks. Because if it does, then this conversation is absolutely directed at you. You know that when you're feeling, look at all my writing. I wanted to make sure to bring you guys enough to hold on to. But when you are working and you're learning new things and you're feeling burned out, feeling underpaid, I'm sure that's not any of your issues or concerns yet, right? Uh-oh, let the church say amen, huh? When you're feeling underappreciated, unhealthy, unheard, unsafe, unprotected, unadvised, unsure, underprivileged, unloved, unmotivated, uninspired. Ladies, you're not winning. Did I leave anybody out? It is important that you realize what your superpower is, and that is to preserve life. But in order to show up, in order to win, you must recognize your own personal wellness. And so when my superpower ignited, when I realized that the community that I showed up to serve was unhealthy, challenged, the gunfire, the young children in dysfunctional households, the reality of so many sex trafficked, the reality of so many high HIV diagnoses, the reality that less than 24% of our population will even show up to vote, the fact that they don't feel that their vote was connected to making a difference in their lives. Now, you heard me talk about being that little girl from Ward 8 Southeast DC. Well, I think you know that in certain parts of this town, there's a cycle. There's a cycle brewing. You're showing up to fight fires, but you're not void of the community issues around you. And the reality is that you guys have superpowers. That's how you show up in our community. And in order to make sure that you show up and continue to show up and win, you must protect your wellness. And so this morning, I want you to understand that mental health across this country is so stigmatized. It is so embedded in families that are struggling and failing. Many of you are familiar with that. And the reality is that as women, as tomorrow's leaders, you've got to understand the importance of protecting you so that you continue to go out and protect the community. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we struggle with things and it's hard to talk about, right? Because we think that it's dimming our light or making us less superhuman. Because let's face it, in today's world, with women's rights under attack, we gotta be superhuman. Mm-hmm. We have to speak up. We have to make sure that they understand how we see this life. We are the nurturers of communities, nurturers of our family. But for some reason, society has allowed us to believe that it's taboo to talk about our mental health. And so if I don't equip you with anything this morning, I want you to know that in order to win, your wellness is necessary. Say it. My wellness. My wellness. Oh, say it like you mean it. Don't convince me, why don't you? My wellness. My wellness is necessary. It is necessary. Are you winners? Yes. Did you sign up to protect the community? Yes. Do you run towards the fire instead of away from the fire? Yes. Are you superheroes? Yes. Absolutely you are. Thank you for your service. Will you please take a moment and give yourselves a round of applause? To do the work that I do and to understand that I realize that we can be a stronger society, a stronger DC. We're the nation's seat of government. I don't walk around by myself with a case. Just like you got some folks in here, your counterparts. Because there's a massive community out there in need of our superpowers. So we've got to get work stabilizing who we are, making sure how we show up, making sure to keep the commitments, the values, and representations of this wonderful institution at the forefront in order that we're all winning. I traveled with a few superheroes myself. Back holding the cameras, Miss Juanita Briscoe, who works in mental health. And I'll say survivor of Ward 8 Southeast DC. Because see, women, we're strong. We survive. We adapt. We understand the importance of making sure that the family eats. When we walk outside and we see a baby in distress. It just does something to our heartstrings. And you guys are my first in, last out, often forgotten. But as a society, we wouldn't be able to function without you. So today I came to empower you, to remind you of that superpower you had, and to know not to take it for granted, because you matter. I traveled with another superhero in the back. 30 years EMS for DC government. You do 30 years anywhere, you must be acknowledged. Miss Monique Smith. Wonderful surprise. In my former life, before I was an insurance broker, I was as you heard in that wonderful bio, boy, I tell you, Coldwell Banker's first franchise African-American broker in Washington, D.C. Why is it important to throw that African-American and that woman piece in there? Because up until the 60s, blacks, women particularly, couldn't participate in real estate. So when you hit historical understandings and references, you tend to think back to the Harriet Tubman days, right? But 1960 wasn't that long ago. So we're still breaking down barriers, and what we realize is a lot of it has to do with fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what we've taught or been adopted, or what has been adopted, I should say. Fear of that history. I started out talking about the history of DC. But what about the history of the United States? Guys, I want you to know that we come in all shapes, sizes, and color. And the important thing is how we show up in the world. We can't pick and choose what families we come from, what geographics we come from. But the reality is, you have signed up to take on the responsibility of an institution's values, standards, and understandings. That no matter what, when that bell goes off, when that call comes in, you must show up. And so the most important thing I believe that you can do for yourselves and for our community and for this wonderful organization is to take care of you. Because it's important that you show up. Miss Donna Winbush is a former real estate client. And when I met her, I had no idea of the magnitude of her heart. She wanted to save lives. She didn't know how. She just knew she had access, she had resources, and she wanted to figure out how she could save lives. See, it shows up. It shows up because we're women. We can't escape it. We want to help. A very dear business mentor of mine said to me many years ago, Rhonda, women lead with their checkbook tied to their heartstrings. Meaning that every time we see something, cats up a tree, daughter in trouble, whatever, we're going to go fix it. That is who we are. And it's time not to apologize for that. It's time to understand, how do we harness all of our greatness? How do we tune up these superpowers so we can continue to show up, one, for ourselves, our family, and for our communities? Is any of this stuff making sense? I sure hope so. Because I need you to know that when Captain, let me keep it politically correct, when Captain Cooper extended the invitation, I was humbly appreciative, humbly grateful that she realized that the importance of helping you all to win is to make sure that she's networking and making the right connections. But guys, beyond your ranks, beyond your titles, you're human. And as women, we definitely have a responsibility to remember who we are and to know that to show up, to have that superpower of yours be effective in the communities that you're serving, you got to take care of it. You got to take care of it. And so what does that look like? We talked about yesterday's definition of mental health. representing the white coat and the couch, wearing the labels. Well, I want you to know that today's understanding is more about prevention, preventative. What can I do in these spaces to keep myself sound? You heard me talk about the many professions that are heavily stressed in nature, and you already know that you signed up in one of those professions. I work daily in one of those professions. So just as you have strategies to be successful in your work, you've got to have strategies to be successful in your life, no doubt. So I want you to share, I want you to take this with you today. There's something called SAMHSA, Substance and Mental Health Services Administration. It's one of the references that we use as a nation to understand mental health better. It's one of the references where we do much research. SAMHSA.gov, SAMHSA.gov. It's one of our research references, and it helps us to understand how we can do this better. The beauty of you all being tomorrow's leaders is that you have access to technology. You have access to someone that came before you. You have access to an institution that is grounded in value, protection, and life preservation. And those are some big words. And so we want to give you something to carry with you this morning and as you go forward in your living. Mental health is much bigger, much more dynamic, much more layered than just the couch and the white coat understanding. As you heard me reference, you can come out of a relationship the wrong way. Let's give you another example. We lose a loved one. Well, we know the cycle of life makes it inevitable that we're going to lose family and friends and colleagues and co-workers and neighbors. Grief. Grief is something that fuels our mental health. Are there any other thoughts in your mind of what could touch your mental wellness, could cause you to feel uneasy? I've given you two: coming out of a relationship the bad way, or one of those, tug of war. As women, we go through that. Some of us are stressed out about our children and their performance in school. Many of us come on the news and we just naturally get anxiety when we hear all of the headlines and how unsafe it is in a space that you show up to work every day. See if I can pull one more out of this room. Is there any other circumstance that you can think of that would cause you to be concerned about your mental wellness? Finances. Grieving. Any more human superheroes in here that understand what we're talking about? Being a woman and comparing yourself to men. Amen. Come on and let the church say amen. Guys, you are tomorrow's superpowers, but you're also the nurturers. And today I came in to remind you of the importance of taking care of protecting your superpower. Because in order to win, you must be well. So let's talk about that prevention. I is for the intellectual wellness. Intellectual wellness. When you have a moment, always be pouring something in. Read, grow, and learn at your own pace, not someone else's. Because you're doing it for yourself. Why would you do preventative measures? Why would it even matter? You heard me mention SAMHSA. The research they did showed us that when Americans, individuals, don't have access to wellness understandings and practices, they tend to live shorter lives. I don't know about you, but if someone gave me a statistic and said that my life would be shortened if I didn't make efforts for wellness, I might do this differently, you think? I want those capes to fly high and long. And so so in doing so, I want to impart in you the understanding of, in addition to your intellectual wellness, you must be feeding your financial wellness. We just heard stress happens when finances aren't stable. Stress also kills. My dear room of superheroes and life preservation, stress kills. So the first thing in taking care of yourself is understanding these wellness elements. P, physical. Well, I know you already take care of that. And don't get to 55 and go through grief and some other things and be like me and putting those chocolate bars in your mouth. You still have to be accountable. Physical. You must stay up on your physical health. And thank goodness you work in a profession where that is the case in the requirement. Oh, occupational. Your occupational wellness. You guys have access to resources. I know you do because you're union strong. Utilize your resources. Talk to your mental health professionals. Preserve your confidentiality, but definitely take care of yourself. If there's something going on at home, let somebody know. You have the benefit of being part of an institution in DC that is over 200 years old. A lot of folks can't say that. Capitalize. Make sure your wellness is first and out in the forefront. After occupational, let's talk about your social wellness. You know, sometimes our social life is impacted when we become leaders, when we become women dedicated to careers. Sometimes we have to choose between our social capabilities and our stress for making sure we show up at the job and they know that we are equal to them and they know that I can do it if they can do it. You know, all that stress. But I want you to remember your wellness. And I want you to remember to win, you've got to have that preventative in your life. I call it my if posse. That's how I can remember the acronyms. If posse. After your social wellness, your spiritual wellness. Now, we didn't say you got to be in church every Sunday. To each his own. But see, if you got a formula, and you do, for success in your career, I want you to have a formula in your personal being. I want you to know that these are things you can do in your age with the technology and the YouTubes of the world. You can get it all in while preparing a bath. But I just want you to get it in because your superpower is so important. Because you protect so many and generally put others' well-being before yourself. See, as our superheroes, as tomorrow's leaders, we want those capes flying high and flying low. And to do that is this wellness component that we must attach. So after your spiritual understanding, we want you to understand your environmental wellness. Environmental wellness. Environmental wellness has to do with, you heard me talk about the families of the city, the dysfunctional cycles, the families, the economic divide, the families, the guns going off, the families living in unsafe structures, the families living with rodents and mold, the families with no heat in the winter. Environmental wellness. Are you in an unhealthy relationship and too proud to acknowledge one? Is it time for you to reevaluate the environments that you're in? And how are they impacting your superpower, your ability to show up in this wonderful career that you've chosen? And the last E is your emotional wellness. Now see, as women, many of us got a front line turn on the tears. But there are many of us on the other side of that perspective that are so strong. We have to prove we can do this. We can't dare let them think we're a woman. Well, I want you to embrace your superpower today. I want you to know to win means that you've got to be present. You've got to recognize the work that you're called to do and the community that you're called to do within. And the next time that call comes in or you're preparing for something, I want you to realize that us superheroes, we're out here. And the way that we're going to remain strong is we're going to win because we're going to protect our wellness. And we're going to go forward to make certain that the women that come behind you will do the same. See, we got to start having conversations. We got to start being accountable. We've got to start protecting our superpowers, women. Because how we show up in this world, we are the nurturers, right? We are out trying to prove that we've got what it takes. But I want you to know, it is my intentions of becoming DC's next mayor, because I don't know how we sustain that unless we are a healthier society, unless we are a safer society, unless we are stronger together. So I've got my work cut out for me, especially showing up talking about mental health, especially showing up asking you to understand that in order to win, you must make sure you know you matter. But I do it with pride, honor, and for the love of the city that nurtured me. And in the legacy and namesake of my beautiful parents, most especially the bravest and most courageous woman I know, who chose to keep getting up every day. Because see, what I didn't share with you is since I was 10 years old, or even younger, my mom had visible voices. So we couldn't hide it. You're going to the grocery store, to the bus stop, to McDonald's. It became something different. But there she was, in all her glory, with her superpower, because she was still a nurturer, mental health intact. She was still a mom, a loving and proud mom. So I want you to know, tomorrow's leaders, you are our heroes. In all of our glory, you're showing up to protect our community. To do so, you must protect yourselves. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Ladies, I thank you for giving me a moment of your time. And I want you to know that whoever's telling you that politics don't have nothing to do with what you're doing, you remember what Dr. Hamilton said. The community around you that you're serving, they need us. They need our superpowers in more ways than one. But to be effective, to win, you got to take care of ourselves. So ladies, remember, wellness is necessary. Remember your if possible. And just know that I am Dr. Rhonda Hamilton. I am one of you. I am proud to serve. And if anyone hasn't told you today, you are